Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are now with our third author this evening. So, our 10 o'clock chat is with YA author Natalie D. Richards, who recently wrote One Was Lost, that was came out in October 2016. And then she has an upcoming release this October that's titled We All Fall Down. So, welcome, Natalie, and thank you so much for chatting with us. If you want to start off with just a few minutes of telling us about yourself.
Hello! It's really late here and I'm tired. So if I am delirious, I want you all to forgive me right now. I'm super energetic, so I'm also on a wobbly lap desk. So my laptop and this whole call might be like we're in the ocean. Let's just pretend we're on a cruise ship and we'll just like call it a cool thing, but it may wobble a little. So I am Natalie Richards and I have written, oh my gosh, how many books have I written? How tired am I? I don't even know how many books I've written. My fifth book comes out in October, but I am working on my sixth book now. So my fourth book, which is the one that's out now that a lot of people are reading and I'm getting tweets and emails about most often at the moment, is One Was Lost. I loved this book. I loved writing this book. This is what I call Blair Witch Project meets The Breakfast Club. So it is a creepy book about four kids who go into the woods. They actually go in with several other kids and they end up separated from their group. They wake up in the morning with words written on their arms and all of their camp supplies destroyed. And they are four, not strangers, but definitely not friends, which is why, it's Breakfast Club meets the Blair Witch Project. So they are lost in the woods, but they are definitely not alone. So I loved this book. I loved writing it. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. Alternately, my next book, and I guess I shouldn't say alternately, I love writing all of my books. They're all amazing. Like, writing's terrible. Don't ever do it. No, that's not what I mean. No, writing is good, but every book is different. And this book, I don't think I've ever fallen more in love with characters than I did in this because these characters are going through something really painful. We All Fall Down is about a broken boy, a nervous girl, and the haunted bridge between them. I'd say more a broken boy, a terrified girl, and the haunted bridge between them. So this book is a haunted love story, is really what it is. And it was really different, also similar to One Was Lost, in that I always write creepy books. I always write books that keep you up late going, what is going on? I want to know what's happening with this girl, these kids, what is this? I don't usually know what's happening in my books until I get through them. So that's why they're written that way, is because I'm a little frantic too. But We All Fall Down is one of the ones where the characters felt just, they're still haunting me. They're still with me. This book comes out in October, so I've been done writing it for about a year now, about a year now. And you would think, by that time I'm in a new book, but these characters are really still with me. Usually I can let go of them a little quicker. So Theo and Paige, though, I love them. Anyway, all right, so question time. First of all, I just want to send a huge shout out to the organizers of this. You guys are amazing for doing this. To all the teens out there watching, you guys are amazing for loving books, for reading, for being in your libraries. We love that as writers. Thank you so much. So, questions. When did you start writing? I don't know when I didn't write. I guess my mom said that when I was on her lap when I was very little, like 2, maybe less than 2, she said that I used to sit on her lap. She'd try to tell me a story, and I would say, no, mommy, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, started. I think I've always been a storyteller. You can tell that I'm so quiet and reserved from this video chat, I'm sure. So I think it was pretty natural for me to go into writing. As soon as I started learning how to read, I was very young when I learned how to read. And I started with a magnetic chalkboard and I started arranging even little words, cat, ate, dog. Wait, maybe that explains why I write horror. I started with that sort of thing. But no, so that's when I started writing. I would say the first real important writing I did, which really wasn't, was in the 2nd grade. I wrote about Barbara Frances Bizzlefish's, oh yes, very serious literary work here. She would not dare do the dishes. So it was a Shel Silverstein ripoff, honestly, but come on now, I was 7, cut me a little slack. It's okay to rip things off when you're 7. But yeah, that's when I started. Some teachers started to recognize you're really talented. And it took me a long time to really believe that myself and go for it. But I've been writing pretty much as long as I can remember. So my next question is, you write suspense, thriller, mysteries. Do you like to read them? Yeah, I'm kind of like Betty Crocker with a really dark soul. I like cookies and Christmas. This is true. That's who I am. Like, I'm really bubbly and energetic and I love stuff, but I also like really dark things. I love reading scary books. I love being up like this in the middle of the night with a book. I think that's amazing. I will say I have a hard time watching horror. And now I don't write horror. I write like, what's going on? And there's always a little kissing in my books too. So it's scary, but there's another element to it. There's a lot of it's very character driven horror. That's what my editor called it. I love her so much. She's like, you write character driven horror. I'm like, I love you. And usually they're more considered thrillers. They're not terribly gory. So I have a hard time watching actual horror. While I like to read it, and that's very fun for me, watching it on the big screen, just all those jumpy, horrible moments with the rising music, I cannot. So that said, I did love Stranger Things. Like, I love it, but I don't know. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. I can't go too scary, though. Like, I can't go to a true blue horror movie in a theater. I would have a cardiac event. You would be rolling me out on a stretcher. So, okay, what do you think is the difference? Ooh, okay, what do you think is the difference between suspense targeted to teens versus suspense targeted to adults? So, frankly, I don't think there's much of a difference between good suspense. Like, as teenagers, you're afraid the same way we all are. You might have slightly different fears in different life circumstances. So that's a factor. I would say what's targeted to adults often tends to center a whole lot around law enforcement and the detective process. I've only written one book that even really went there. It was My Secret to Tell, and it was more romantic than some of my other books and probably more like a traditional mystery than some of my others, which are, like We All Fall Down. This is like a paranormal thriller, and One Was Lost is, definitely a horror thriller, somewhere in that realm. But that's nice. The author doesn't know how to categorize her own books. But I can tell you that most of my books don't really center around law enforcement and the investigation and where the clues are left. That isn't where I thrive and where I love to be. I love that moment of like, oh my gosh, what is in that envelope? I don't want to open it, but I have to. So I like those kinds of things more. I like the suspense and the visceral feel of it. And I think that teens generally do too, rather than the let's go talk to the gumshoe private detective. Like, we don't enjoy that quite as much. So I would say that's the difference. What is my writing process like? So sedate and calm, as you can see. No, I'm crazy all the time, like a lunatic. And I know that they say writers are fueled by caffeine and Starbucks. It's true. Okay, we don't say that because we're trying to be cute. It's because we're very tired. We really are, because frankly, we're thinking about these stories all the time, and it is a hard, amazing job. I love my job. I can't believe I get to make crap up for a living. Seriously, this is what I do. But it also is maddening because these characters become so real to me and these stories become so important. And if I feel like I can't get through it, P.S. spoiler alert, I feel like I can't get to the end of every book. I'm like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know what this character wants. That's every book for me. So because of that, this becomes a problem for me. It's hard to do. It's exciting to do, but it is a lot of caffeine, a lot of long nights. And honestly, it's a lot of showing up. Authors do not come to the page every day. Okay, I guess I can't speak universally for all authors, but I'm gonna. So I think most authors do not come to the page every day and sit down on the laptop and feel the muse sprinkling sunshine onto us. That's not how it works. We show up and we do the work. So I would say a lot of it is just perspiration, sitting your butt at the keyboard and doing your job. And I would also say, for those of you out there that think I sit down and I write and just bang out a book and bam, it's a cover's gone on it and we're selling it at Barnes and Noble. Not true at all. In fact, to be honest with you, most of it is editing. I write a book that is like word vomit. Here's a terrible book. Here's something that doesn't even really make sense. I guess we're going to have to make it book shaped. So then I edit it. I edit it probably 3 or 4 times. Then my editor edits it a couple of times. And then I have copy editors and proofreaders. It is so much editing, and that is where a book really takes shape. So that's my writing process in a really confusing nutshell. What is the most challenging aspect of writing? There's a not challenging aspect of writing. This is a hard question. I think that the most challenging aspect of writing for some writers is different than others. So for me, it is my confidence. If there, a lot of people believe there are kind of two types of writers. There are the writers that are like, I am fantastic. Everything I write is worthy of print, should be starred awards and everything else in the world. I should have a Prince medal on every book. That's not how it works for all writers. I am the opposite. I am it's horrible. Everything I've ever written is bad. Don't buy it. You shouldn't buy it. I have to fight that all the time. Sometimes I can go back to a book and I'll feel so upset with it and then get into it and realize this is pretty good. I'm surprised. I don't hate this because I always feel like I'm not good enough for it. It's something that a lot of people call imposter syndrome. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that, but it's something that I feel a lot. Like I feel like they're going to know. Somebody's going to open a book one day and they're just going to know this is some crazy chick in Ohio. What is she doing? She can't write books. And then that's it. I'm flipping burgers. What am I going to do with my life? That's really how I feel. That's the hardest part of writing, is fighting that and saying, no, you can tell this story. You've done it before. People want to read it. That's what you're here for. So what is my favorite word? Favorite word? Come on. That's like asking my favorite movie or my favorite song. What, for this minute? I don't know. I think discombobulated. I love that word. It's so nice. It just sounds like it is. Discombobulated. It sounds like me, which is accurate, sadly. I would say my least favorite word is an absolute always, bulbous. Just listen to it. Say it all. Wherever you are, I can't hear you, so you have to just pretend to play along with me. Bulbous. Bulbous. Do you ever want anything in your life to be bulbous? No, you do not. That word is terrible. It needs to go away. If somebody could just expunge that completely, that'd be great. What scares me? What scares me? So that's interesting. That's a good question. What scares me is actually what inspired this book and this book. So my first 3 books were 6 months later, Gone Too Far, and One Was Lost. And I loved both of them very much. Not One Was Lost. Oh my gosh. 6 months later, Gone Too Far, and My Secret to Tell. Please, someone send coffee. See what happens when I don't have it. Anyway, those 3 books, I loved writing them and they were really fun, but I knew I had never delved into anything that really scared me. And right before I wrote One Was Lost, I'm sorry, I know this is kind of a bummer. My dad died, and I was really in a funky, kind of awful place. I felt so lost in the world, and I thought, can I really come back to this writing and do it? And I realized I did need to come back to it, and I needed to dig a little deeper. So I wrote about things that really scare me, which is a really long-winded answer to this question. I'm so sorry. But so for One Was Lost, the forest scares me. I am really afraid of the woods at night. I love hiking and I love being in the forest, but buddy, that sun goes down and you get me out of there because there is somebody in the trees. Like, I don't dig that. I also find something really terrifying inherently about camping because you're so vulnerable. Like, you go out in the wilderness and you're giving me this little fabric tent, and that's no, absolutely no, Lord, no. We All Fall Down scares me because a lot of it is about losing control and not being able to trust the things that you're seeing, the things that you're hearing, your own senses betraying you. Theo is hearing things in this book that maybe or maybe aren't real. The girl is finding things that maybe are there, maybe aren't. It's terrifying. There's a terrifying sense of betrayal of your senses. So those things scare me. What makes me laugh is almost everything else in the world. So I actually am not like, I don't like slapstick, so I would say that, but I do like really dry humor, and a lot of things make me laugh. I'm not hard to make laugh. So if I had to choose a career other than what you currently do, what would you do? I would be a librarian. Honestly, I love you, librarians out there tonight. You're awesome. So I am so blessed. I work at the most magical library in the world. I work in a little library here in Columbus, Ohio, where I live. Very exciting. The Buckeye State. Who doesn't want to come to Ohio? Yeah. But I work in a wonderful library and I get to support the staff there, but I'm not a librarian. And what they do, the programming, the way they reach out with resources, it's so cool. Kind of lame, I know, like, okay, the writer wants to be a librarian, but I totally think that would be awesome. I also think it would be completely awesome to name nail polish colors or to be a cake decorator that could like eat icing all day. So whatever. What profession would I never want to do? Well, um, a lot of them, but nothing involving bodily fluids. Every time I'm at a hospital for any reason and I think about the nurse that's drawing my blood or dealing with me feeling icky, I'm like, you're an amazing human being. They deserve all the money. Nurses deserve all the money. That is just horrible, the things that they have to deal with. And it's amazing. And I love them, but I could never do it. What is my favorite place to travel to? I have wanderlust. I like to go everywhere. I like to see a lot of different things. So I don't have one particular place. I have some favorite cities. I love Chicago. Chicago, Illinois is one of my favorite cities. I love San Diego. I love New York. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, which is a pretty big city, but not as big as those. And I do love them. I love the magic of those cities. But I also love Beaufort, North Carolina. It's a very small, sleepy beach town near Emerald Isle. And generally, I like to go anywhere I've never been. I am a traveler. I love to do it. So those are places I like to visit. What do I like to do in my downtime? That's so adorable. You think I have downtime. I really don't have downtime. When I have downtime, mostly I panic about the fact that I'm sitting there not doing anything when I have a book that's due and a job that needs to be done and 3 children that need to be raised and 2 gigantic dogs that almost certainly need to go pee somewhere. So yeah, no, I don't have a lot of free time. If I do have it, I like to read, really, just because I don't get to do it as much as I would like. I also love to hike. I really like to get outside, which is so funny. I hate the forest. I love the forest. It's so weird. Once that sun goes down, I'm like the reverse of a vampire. I cannot. But yeah, so I like to hike. I like to be outside. I like to shop, which is sad. And I shouldn't because I don't have the money for that, but I do like to shop. So I like a lot of things like that. And I like to geek out over Star Wars things, like for real. Like you have no idea. I have a dog named Wookiee. I am serious about this. On Star Wars Day, May 4th, may the 4th be with you. If anybody out there does not know what that day is, I need you to just call me right now. Just end this call and just get on the phone with me. And we're going to talk about Star Wars and all the things you need to know. I have a dog named Wookiee. On May the 4th, my husband turned to me and said, "Hey, look, you're dressed all cute for May the 4th day." No, I was just dressed that way. I had a Star Wars shirt, Star Wars coffee mug, Star Wars pajama pants, because that's pretty much every day. All right. Do I have any distinct memories of an interaction in a library or with a librarian? I do. So I'm going to go back to childhood because I have amazing librarians around me every day, and I am so incredibly blessed to work at my job. But when I was a child, I was pretty poor. We did not have very much money at all. And my dad loved reading. He didn't have a TV, which I thought was because he was really cool and intelligent and wise. And that was part of it, but it was also because my dad was really broke and did not have a TV. So we read a lot. He did have a lot of books, and he would always try to scrape together money to buy me books. But my mom was not as into books. They were divorced, and I had to like kind of go to the library on my way home from school, or I wouldn't ever see books. And I remember I used to have this little corner in the library that I would sneak all the books, the ones you're not supposed to read, the adult books, the horrors. There I was, 11 years old with my Stephen King, my Dean Koontz, and I would sneak them back into corners. And I remember these little cozy places where I could only smell old paper and stories, and it was pure magic. And maybe that's why I'm a writer today. What have I read in the last year? I have a list. Holy crap, I'm organized for one. Sure, that was a super attractive shot of my side as I dove off screen. I'm so professional at this, guys. Like, what are you missing when you don't have me on screen? The other authors are probably there, I don't know, with an actual presentation and organized thoughts, but then you get me. But I'll keep you awake. So this year I read one of the good ones, A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. I hadn't read that yet. That was great. I just finished Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I just finished Nicola Yoon's Not the Sun is Also a Star, Everything, Everything, which I really liked. And her book is so sweet and light and beautiful. I loved it. I really enjoyed that. Finished The Life of Pi, which I had started but not finished quite a while ago. A.S. King, Still Life with Tornado. I just read that. That is tremendous. That's a fantastic book. Really enjoyed that too. So I'm reading a lot of good stuff right now. I'm getting ready to start finally The Hate You Give. So I'm excited. I have a lot of stuff that I'm reading. So I try to read a lot. I tend to read a book a week at least. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot. When I was a teen, I did a lot more, but I work full time and I write full time and I have 3 kids and the 2 dogs. So I have to squeeze it in all the time. If I'm lucky, I also listen to an audiobook about once every 2 weeks is usually how quick I get through them, sometimes less than that, depending on the length. Who are my favorite authors? Oh my gosh, guys, this is hard, yo. There are so many, right? Like your favorite author is obviously me now because I'm crazy. No, I would say, gosh, most recently. So Rainbow Rowell, oh Lord, um, she's amazing. All of her books, everything I've ever read from her. Eleanor and Park is my favorite, if you're curious. Jandy Nelson wrote I'll Give You the Sun, and another one that's escaping me at the moment. I adored I'll Give You the Sun so much that I could barely read anything else for a very, very long time. Like I had book hangover after that book for like a month. Nothing would pass. I'm like, no, it's not good enough. It's not that book. I hate it. I sold that book on everyone. Everyone was so tired of hearing me talk about that book. I cannot even tell you. So Jandy Nelson, Rainbow Rowell, Libba Bray is amazing. Nova Rensuma, Courtney Summers. There are so many great authors. Lee Bardugo. There are a million. I'm gonna miss everybody. I'm gonna think of 15 names the minute I get off of this and be like, but yes, many, many. Is there an author you would freak out about meeting in real life? Oh, I don't know. Maybe I already did. I did. I met Rainbow Rowell at Books by the Banks. I was there signing as an author, and I saw her come in and immediately did one of these. I mean, how do I get a book? And I'm supposed to be at my table, like signing things and doing things, but I didn't. Like I had to like go over and orchestrate this entire way to like get away from my table and not do my JOB. Good job, Natalie Richards. So I had to go over there and get a book signed, and I was really, really freaked out. But I have found, I've had the opportunity to meet and get to know Jay Asher a few times of 13 Reasons Why. I'm sure you all know him. And Rainbow Rowell, I did get to meet her. I've met David Arnold of Mosquito Land. I've met some pretty big deal authors. And honestly, I'm always amazed at how wonderful and gracious and kind they are. I met Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley of All American Boys. They are the nicest, smartest, most interesting people. It's always been a lot sweeter than I thought it would be, and not quite as overwhelming, although I dork out completely. I'll own that. So my favorite childhood book. This is still hard. I mean, I'm a writer, yo. I probably read some, right? I did. I read a lot of books as a child. I would say The Hobbit was the one that got me started, but recently I tried to read it again, and it didn't quite have the same pull to me. It's still great, but it didn't pull me the way it did when I was that age. Weirdly, if you've read my books when I say this, I think you'll laugh. Anne of Green Gables, that was really a book that pulled me in, which is so funny because I don't write anything like Anne of Green Gables, I assure you. But yeah, so those two I would say were two of the first ones. And then there was a Dean Koontz book I read, and I was way too young to be reading it. I think I was like 12, and it was called Lightning. And I remembered thinking that book had me so, I think it was the first book I stayed up until like 4 or 5 in the morning reading. And I thought, I want to do that. I want to make people stay up that late. I want to keep people asking questions. So those are a few. What is my favorite TV show, movie, band? Come on! No, these are good questions. I just can't think. It's like when I get this late and tired, when I get this tired and it's late, really, see what's happening to me? I'm falling apart. Somebody needs to send some duct tape right away. Let's see. My favorite TV show currently. I'm in a little bit of a drought with TV. Stranger Things. What am I saying? Stranger Things, Stranger Things, Stranger Things. Absolutely, without question. I haven't found a series like Stranger Things is, I guess, more of a mini series, or well, I guess it's a series, but it's shorter. There's fewer episodes. But Stranger Things, I think I've watched it 3 times now. And when um, the second preview, if you haven't seen it, the second preview is out for the second season. That I was just ridiculous, over the moon. I probably watched it 40 times. Really, I have problems. Someone should send help. What is my favorite movie? Oh, I know, Star Wars, all of them. No, no. Let's clarify right now. The prequels do not exist. In my universe, they are the movies we will not speak of. I do like The Empire Strikes Back. I know that's kind of a gimme. Every Star Wars fan says that's their favorite, but it is one of mine. And I also really liked the new one, and I loved Rogue One. I thought it was well done too, though it's not quite the same shtick. But I do love Star Wars. I would say those would be my favorite. Breakfast Club. I wonder why I wrote a book that we could compare to that. I loved The Breakfast Club. More recently, I really liked Easy A. I thought that was a really fun movie. And I also really liked, oh my gosh, the name is completely escaping me. The Duff. I did enjoy that. I thought it was fun. So that was one I liked a lot. And my favorite band is probably how about what I listen to when I write? Let me give you that, because that's a little bit different. I listen to The Neighborhood. I listen to Ms. Mister. I listen to 21 Pilots, a lot of 21 Pilots right now, actually. Some of it, not as much of the stuff that gets played every day. I listen to a lot of their off tracks, actually. But I love 21 Pilots. I think they're great. I think I mentioned The Neighborhood. Muse is another one I listen to a lot. Florence and the Machine, that's one. Lana Del Rey. Those are probably my favorites right now that I listen to a ton. What projects am I currently working on? I am working on an untitled project. It is book 6. None of my books are related, by the way. I say that, and I really shouldn't, because it's not, there's no series, there's no connection. My books are all separate. They're all standalones. You can pick up any one of them. But I'm working on one right now that I'm hesitant to talk about too much because I'm pretty early in the process, but I can tell you that it heavily involves a library with some very wicked, twisted, crazy things going on. I know that's not a lot of information, but I'm hesitant to talk about it too much just because I've just started it and things are very malleable. I'm still really playing with it. So things could change pretty drastically. So I'll just say it's about the creepiest library ever. And then what other projects? I'm also working on a middle grade right now that I'm dabbling with, and some other projects. So I always have a few things that I'm dabbling with, but my main project right now is probably that library YA. What advice would I give to my teenage self? I wouldn't just give this to well, if I had to give myself teenage advice, it might be like, I don't know, pay more attention in school, have a life plan. But honestly, I think that if I had to really go back and say one thing to myself, it would be, on the dark days, it gets better. It really got so dark sometimes when I was in that phase of my life. It felt so ugly and hopeless and ridiculous, and people were just unbelievably cruel to me, to others. It wasn't like I was some horribly bullied person, but it's just hard. It's really a hard phase of life, and some days it just felt too hard. So I guess I would have told myself, it really does get better. If you walk a little further, there is light again. Things do perk up. And then I would have instilled a little better belief in myself. Like, whatever you're out there thinking right now about yourself, whatever limitations you think you have, you probably don't really have them. I mean, a lot of them you can overcome. I have learned that. I did not come from a background that really prepared me to be a writer, and I didn't come from a background where they fed me a private college education, and I really didn't have those things in my life. I had a very, very blue collar family, and I didn't have a lot of encouragement to be a writer, and I really had to make money, and I had to work, and I had hard things I had to face, and I still made this happen. And you can too. And that doesn't mean if you're a writer, I mean whatever you want to do. If you feel like I can't do this because of that, I guess that's the thing I would have gone back to tell myself is, yeah, you can. Don't let anybody tell you no. You can do it. You just have to stay with it. Final question. Do I have any advice for aspiring writers? I may have given that already. No, I do. I give the standard advice that a lot of writers give, and that is read, 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 write, write, write. So Okay, you all know that. So anybody who's an aspiring writer, like, I know I'm supposed to read and I know I'm supposed to write. Okay, then I'll give you a new one. Edit, edit, edit. I think the hardest thing when you're a new writer is if you're a confident writer, you feel like this is great, it doesn't need anything. And if you're a non-confident writer, you're really fragile and you don't want to share it because you're like, if I share it and you tell me it's bad, I'll never write again. Well, I'm here to tell you, if you share it and they tell you it's bad, you probably will write again, because I did. And I have plenty of rejections and plenty of bad reviews. And I remember having someone tell me, and this isn't that long ago. I mean, I think it was maybe 7 years ago, because I've been published since 2013. So yeah, it might have been about 7 years ago. Somebody told me, I don't know, you write in present tense, and I think it's just a little bit too intense. You're just really right in there. And I think you need to learn how to back your work up a little bit. And I didn't listen to that. But I listened to other things that that person said. But if I had listened to them, maybe I would have quit writing. So I guess the biggest thing is edit yourself and just keep going. You'll hear discouraging things. It happens. You have to have thick skin to do this. That's for sure. And I guess that's my final question. You guys are amazing. Those are good questions. I'm sorry I didn't have all the answers. I definitely did flub through some. But thank you guys so much. I really appreciated it.
Thank you, Natalie. It was really great to have you. We really appreciate you coming out and chatting with everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night, you guys. Have some snacks if you can.